What's up, everybody? We are back again for some more Genshin Impact. Today we're going to be doing the Ascension guide video for Nahida, which is going to end up being the new character released in version 3.2, which I'm not exactly sure when 3.2 is going to end up arriving. The dev stream today didn't end up actually giving us a release date. Actually, you know what? We do have a release date for it, which was actually based off of an earlier developer stream, which says that the version 3.2 is going to be released November 2nd. So when the update hits, Nahida's banner is going to end up being the first one, and then the next banner is going to be what will feature Layla. So you may or may not want to end up saving your Prima Gems. I personally have no interest in Nahida, even though she does look pretty powerful. But anyways, for those of you that just want the Ascension card, here it is right here. So you can see that we do actually have some new materials that we cannot farm for in advance for Nahida, which is going to end up being the boss drop from the Dendro Hypostasis and the weekly boss drop from Scaramouche, which means that you are not going to be able to instantly 10-10-10 her. It's actually going to end up taking a couple weeks worth of grinding in order to do that. You can end up getting all the error resources, you know, nice and quick though, but there's going to end up being a link in the description to where you can end up downloading the card. And then for everybody else that wants to know more about the character, well, we'll dive right in. So Nahida is going to end up being the next 5-star character, and she is going to end up being a Catalyst user. So this is going to end up being her base attack, which actually looks pretty dang OP as far as a Catalyst character is concerned, because most Catalyst characters usually end up having like single target damage with a little bit of a burst when you end up doing your charge. But her base attack seems like it actually covers a very wide area and ends up tagging multiple enemies with Dendro, which is going to end up being quite useful. Moving on, her E ability, all seems to know, I don't know. It's a camera thing. So you guys remember the camera minigame event we ended up having recently? Well, that's what her ability is going to be. So sends forth karmic bonds of wood and tree from her side, dealing area of effect Dendro damage and marking up to 8 opponents hit with the seed of Skanda. Probably pronouncing that wrong. When held, this skill will trigger differently. So the hold version of it enters aiming mode, which allows you to select a limited number of opponents within a limited area. During this time, Nahida's resistance to interruption will be increased, and when released, this skill deals Dendro damage to these opponents and marks them with the Seed of Skanta. Aiming mode will last up to 5 seconds and can select up to a maximum of 8 opponents. And then the Seed of Skanta, what it actually does, opponents who have been marked by the seed will be linked to one another up till a certain distance. After you trigger elemental reactions on the opponents affected by the seed, or when they take damage from Dendro cores, which includes Burgeon, Hyper Bloom, blah blah blah, more reactions, go burr, right? Nahida will unleash Tri-Karma Purification on the opponents and all connected opponents, which will deal Dendro damage based on her attack percentage and elemental mastery. You can trigger at most 1 Tri-Karma Purification within a short period of time, which basically is just saying that you can't trigger like multiple of them by having one group of enemies chained up by the seed and another group of enemies chained up by the seed. Either way, it's looking like she's going to be shaping up to be a damage character. We are going to end up having Layla as another character showing up as well though, and she actually seems pretty dang good for a 4-star character, but we'll have another video that'll talk about that. So moving on to her ultimate, manifests the Court of Dreams and expands the Shrine of Maya. So when the Shrine of Maya field is unleashed, the following effects will be separately unleashed based on the elemental types present within the party. So if you end up having Pyro, well, Nahida remains within the Shrine of Maya, this huge area that ends up going on the ground. The damage dealt by Tri-Karma Purification from all schemes to know is increased. If you have an Electro character in the party, she'll end up having the interval between Tri-Karma Purification will be decreased, meaning that you can have Tri-Karma trigger more often within a shorter time frame without having to wait for that internal cooldown. And then with Hydro, the Shrine of Mara's or Maya's duration will be increased. If there are 2 party members of the same aforementioned elemental type present in the field and blah 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 blah, the effects will increase even further. Even if Nahida is not on the field, these bonuses will take effect so long as party members are within the Shrine of Maya. So that's more so for if you're playing multiplayer. Now, the weird thing about her kit is that that ultimate, near as I can tell, doesn't actually affect your party members. It just affects her. So she's pretty greedy, despite the fact that she has such a amazing looking ultimate ability, right? Moving on to her passive abilities, so we've got 3 of them right here. So Nahida can use all seems to know to interact with some harvestable items within a fixed area of effect. This skill may even have some other effects. So they didn't end up talking about what the other effects were on stream. They did show that you would be able to gather certain plants. So like this flower that's over here, I could end up probably using my photo mode to grab it from a distance, which is going to really help out with a lot of the more tedious plants that you have to get off of mountains and so on and so forth. They did also tease that you can use it on NPCs, although I don't know what it's for. More than likely, I'm assuming it's just some lore thing where maybe you'll read people's thoughts or something. I don't know. And then the next passive, when unleashing Illusionary Heart, the Shrine of Maya, her ultimate ability, you will gain the following effects. The elemental mastery of the active character within the field will be increased by 25% of the elemental mastery of the party member with the highest elemental mastery. Good God. You can gain a maximum of 250 elemental mastery in this manner. And then there's going to end up being the next passive, which is each point of Nahida's elemental mastery beyond 200 will grant 0.1% bonus damage and 0.03% crit rate to Tri-Karma Purification specifically, like not her base attack or anything. A maximum of 80% bonus damage and 24% crit rate can be granted to Tri-Karma Purification in this manner, which is pretty cool. But God, they just keep pushing that elemental mastery, don't they? So now we've also got her Constellations. So her C1 is going to be when the Shrine of Maya is unleashed and the elemental types of the party members are being tabulated. Cool. The count will add 1 to the number of Pyro, Electro, and Hydro characters respectively. So I think that what it's saying is you basically would have to have 1 Pyro character in the party, and you'll still see the benefit of having 2 Pyro characters in the party. So that could end up being pretty cracked if all of the different elements could end up stacking. Seems like they're really trying to push using 1 of every type of element with Nahida. Her C2 makes it so that opponents that are marked by the Seeds of Skanda applied by Nahida herself, so not a party member, will be affected by the following effects. So burning, bloom, blah blah blah, all the reactions of Dendro with another element. Damage can score crit hits, crit rate, and crit damage, which will be fixed at 20% and 100% respectively. So it basically just increases the crit rate and crit damage of those reactions, which is pretty nuts. Within 8 seconds of affected by quicken, blah 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 blah, defense of the enemy will be decreased by 30%. So yet another thing very similar to Raiden, where it is going to end up decreasing the defense of the enemy, which means that it is going to end up being very, very powerful, a character that'll deal a lot of damage. The C3 makes it so that your E ability gains 3 levels. The C4 is when 1, 2, 3, and 4 or more nearby opponents are affected by all schemes of the knowing seeds, whatever. Nahida's elemental mastery will increase by 100, 120, 140, and 160. That is a significant amount of elemental mastery just for doing absolutely nothing. And then her C5 makes it so that her ultimate has a couple extra levels. And then her C6, when Nahida hits an opponent affected by the seed with normal or charged attacks after unleashing Illusionary Heart, she will use Tri-Karma Purification. Sorry, I read that wrong. She'll use Tri-Karma Purification Karmic Oblivion. It's a new type of ability. On this opponent and all connected opponents, which will deal Dendro damage based on 200% of Nahida's attack and 400% of her elemental mastery. Damage dealt by the Karma Oblivion is considered elemental skill damage and can be triggered once every 0.2 seconds. This effect can last up to 10 seconds and will be removed after Nahida has unleashed 6 instances of the Karmic Oblivion. So again, big boy damage, go burr. So now let's move into how you would end up building Nahida. Generally speaking, I think it's going to end up being very similar to Cyno. The only difference is that you might end up pushing, instead of Electro, you would push Dendro, and you could also end up pushing elemental mastery rather than attack. However, one of the things that I found kind of weird is that Cyno is supposed to be one of those characters that scales off of EM very well, and yet I'm seeing more benefits from just building a standard damage build with him with attack percentage. But then again, I guess that's also dependent on how you end up using the character. Now, Nahida's best weapon in slot is going to end up being this 5-star one right here, which has a very, very lengthy description, but generally they are really pushing the elemental mastery side of things. Now, for the artifacts, there is going to end up being 2 options. So you could either end up going towards the Deepwood Memories, which is going to end up having, you know, the Dendro bonus as the substat, and then after elemental skills or burst hits opponents, the target's Dendro resistance will be decreased by 30%. So having that with her Constellation would end up just doing heaps and heaps of damage. This effect can be triggered even if the equipping character is not on the field. That'll probably end up being the best artifact set for her. However, you could end up using Gilded Dreams if you want to, just because this is going to end up working with elemental mastery, and then the passive is quite a lengthy description, so I'll just leave it there so you can pause the video and check it out for yourselves if you want to. So of course, as far as the stats are concerned for the Sands, I would probably just end up using attack percentage or elemental mastery. It really depends how you want to end up using her, but generally speaking, attack percentage is almost always the best no matter what option of character you're using. And then for the Goblet, you're going to end up using Dendro damage, and then for the hat, you're going to end up using crit damage or crit rate. Now, personally speaking, if I was building Nahida, I'm probably not going to go for her, but as far as priority for talents are concerned, more than likely it would all be with her E. I think that would be the top priority, and then maybe her base attack and then her ultimate last. It really depends on how you want to play her, just because her ultimate, again, is going to end up boosting the elemental mastery of some other party members, but generally speaking, you are not going to see that much benefits from using the ult in combination with your other team characters. I don't know. It really depends how you want to use her. They are really setting her up as a main DPS, but that doesn't necessarily mean that's how everybody's going to end up playing her. Anyways, I think that pretty much covers everything, so hopefully you found this video helpful, and if you did, smash like, sub for more, buy the merch you want, support the channel, and have a wonderful day, everybody.